We are here with Laruen Kruszyna. We said it right?
Yes, you did.
Awesome. Are you from Santa Barbara?
No, I grew up in Vermont mostly.
That's so amazing because like you never hear of anybody who's actually from Vermont except for the Bidens. Like it's just you and is that those your neighbors? Is Joe Biden, was he your neighbor?
No, but I definitely saw Bernie Sanders a ton in Burlington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Was this when he was a big spectacle in the public eye, or was this like growing up and it's like
No, it was
who's that?
before. Yeah.
So before he was like super popular.
Like when he was the senator, but it was before he was thinking about running for president and stuff like that. So
did he still have Christopher Lloyd Back to the Future hair?
yeah.
Like he invented the DeLorean?
Yes.
That's awesome.
When I think of Vermont, the first thing that pops in my head is real maple syrup.
Oh yeah.
Is that where maple syrup comes from?
Oh my God, dude. I had a roommate in college that was from Vermont, and he was like, yeah, man, we just get drunk and go tap trees.
Do they have, are they cocky about it? Like, are they like the kind of people that will like fight you over their maple syrup? Because that's like their pride.
It's like it's the best, as they say. And I definitely, when I go home, I do bring some back.
That's so funny.
That's cool.
I just brought a gallon home.
Oh yeah, maple syrup is good.
I bring some, and it's a gallon.
Yeah, it'll last me.
Next time I road rage with somebody who has Vermont license plates, I'm just going to tell them maple syrup sucks. They run me off of the overpass.
Yeah.
What made you end up moving them from Vermont all the way to California?
So I moved to Orange County when I first moved to California. And honestly, it was just I wanted to change. Like I kind of wanted to be where it was warm, and I wanted where there was more people.
And were you a teacher in Vermont first?
No, I did go to school to be a teacher, and my senior year, I decided I wasn't sure I wanted to be a teacher anymore. So I graduated without my credential. What was
the switch? Because like people usually decide they don't want to be a teacher anymore once they get in the classroom. What was
my mentor teacher?
Did he just look miserable, or
she was awful?
Yeah.
She was only in her third year, and for some reason she just automatically hated me. Like every little thing I did, she nitpicked, and she wasn't really teaching me how to do what I needed to do.
That
you
sucks.
Must have, I wonder if like you somehow triggered some old memory of some woman that she hated and was like, I'm just going to take it out on this.
Was it because she was a perfectionist about her job? Or do you think, because like I've only taught for a year, subbed before that, but like taught regularly for a year. But I noticed that my ability to have human interactions lessened a little bit after this first year, because like my nerves were so fried. Someone could be like, hey, can I ask you a question? I guess.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, you're burnt out already.
Burnt out, yeah.
I don't know, because I thought we like meshed well in the beginning, and then it just seemed like she had an issue with me, and it kind of escalated to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just not going to do this anymore. What can I do to graduate? And I had to talk to like the head of like the education department, and I just kind of did like an independent study to graduate with my degree, but not a credential.
So what did you get a degree in then?
So just
education still?
Yeah, still education, but I just didn't have my credential.
So what can you do with a degree in education without actually having your credential?
So that was kind of what I was trying to figure out. So when I graduated, I did just find a job to have a job. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do now? And that was like after 2 years, I was like, what if I just move somewhere else and figure it out there? So I moved to California about 2 years after I graduated.
Okay. And you started teaching in Orange County.
Yeah, well, so when I first got to Orange County, I was a nanny.
Okay.
And I realized, hey, I do like teaching. Like I was spending, I started with a 6-month-old, and I was with her for a year and a half, and we were doing all kinds of things. I'm like, I do like teaching. I always gravitate towards jobs with kids and teaching. So I decided to check into going back to school, and I found a credential program in Orange County, and it also had a master's program. So I did those two together. Okay, so
that's really good. And then automatically it bumps up your pay.
Yeah.
Which is great, because we were just talking about that, teachers being underappreciated. I think we should be making as much as lawyers. I'm just going to put that out there because of the amount of, it's so funny because Chris says I sound like a 20-year vet. And I've only been doing it for a year.
Yeah.
But I'm like all like pro like teacher now, and be like the amount of stuff we deal with. And I'm like still very like peewee in my educational learning.
Well, I feel like even you just doing it this past year, it's like gotten worse, progressively worse over the years. So you're starting in a really hard time too.
Yeah. So do you feel like it got progressively worse after COVID? Is that like sort of the BC80 timeline
I
for
do
teaching?
think it did drastically change after COVID. I
Okay.
don't know how did you think it?
I've worked in LAUSD for so long. I'd
Yeah.
say it's exactly the same.
Okay.
You know, and because schools that have a low ranking on the grade schools, their behavior's been just as bad.
It's been trash
But
ever
also,
before.
what hasn't helped, and the public really doesn't know it, is how much we've taken away consequences for behavior.
Oh yeah.
Which is contributing to schools being even crazier. But the public doesn't see it because the books are cooked. There's no suspensions.
Yep.
It looks like suspensions are going down, but you still have the behaviors. Those just aren't being
that
written
are
up for it.
so bad, dude. I had these kids who were like, I guess they could see me like shorten out a little bit, and they're like, "You're not gonna hit us, are you?" Like they're middle schoolers, you know what I mean? So they're screwing with me. But like all of them were like, "Yeah, Trump passed a law that said that like you could hit us," and then I was like, "That's not true."
No.
But then like I went and looked it up.
I like how you double.
Is it actually a lie? Not that
I got a little
twinkle in your eye
excited.
there for
I
a
got a little
second, Lauren.
excited. Yeah, I'm like, Chris and I was working on a stand-up bit about that, being the one teacher that shows up to work with like a boxing glove on and like just holding a piece of chalk in the other hand and just turning around.
I feel like though it's kind of like the threat though is kind of like, oh, can we do that? Do you think we can? I don't really want to, but
yeah,
like,
I mean, me obviously, but at the same time, there is that thing to where it's like, I at least wish I could ground them.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could say to a kid, "You're grounded." Like I would love to yell that.
I noticed like at our school too. Yeah, they're not doing suspensions, and that was like they were trying to like in elementary schools specifically. They're like, we don't want to do suspensions in elementary school, and they're trying. But then they get to middle school, 7th grade, and we hear some of the kids that should have been suspended instantly within the first couple of days getting suspended from school. Like,
so it's like when you take away suspension, what is it? It's like John got timeout by calling in a bomb threat. Like, can you just not do anything?
Well, I think
like,
also we're dealing with kids. Kids only are learning from one group of people, guys, adults. So if a kid gets away with something in their head, they go, that's acceptable to do that.
Yeah.
So then they go on to the next, right? 7th grade or 8th grade or whatever it is. And they're just like, and then they're upset. Well, I was doing that in their head. They can't even, it's our fault. They've been doing that in elementary. Why shouldn't they be able to do it here?
Dude, so there was a kid at our school and he was always acting up. And the dean actually told me the reason why he acts up is because he knows there's no consequences.
Yeah.
And she goes, he was in Mississippi. Like, this kid is so funny. It's the kid who I said looks like Hispanic Chris Farley. You know, he's so funny. I actually love this kid because he makes me laugh. But in Mississippi, they spank kids, I guess, at school. I thought that was outlawed in the United States, but I guess they still do it in Mississippi. That's what she was saying. And so he knows that, like, he's like, what are you going to do to me? I got spanked in Mississippi. So they're not going to do anything to me here. So this dude will just like walk out of class and he'll be like, what are you guys going to do about it?
Yeah.
And there's like no, and I'm not saying that we should like adopt Mississippi protocol, but I'm just saying like, it's kind of wild that still exists in other schools, if that's true.
Well, like at our school too, like I know several teachers who we always have those kids that are really like, they'll do that too.
Squirrely.
Like they know that nothing's going to happen. But they egg on the other kids, like, because they see, oh, well, he's not getting in trouble.
Middle.
Yeah. Yep. And then we send them to the office. So like, finally we need to, we just can't, we've done everything we can do in the classroom, but then they literally come right back.
With a sucker.
It is basically that.
And then the principal or whoever are going, they're such a nice kid. I think they're just misunderstood. They're going, you're being manipulated.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes. I had admin come in a couple times this year and they'd be like, oh man, you got some great kids in this class, like really good kids. And I'm like, dude, they literally act like they work for the cartel.
Yeah. Now, I got a real good question then for you, because, okay, how long have you been teaching?
So I'll be going into my 7th year, but I have been working in schools for like 11 years now.
All right. So you've seen some stuff.
Yes.
So what are you doing because the consequences for behavior have been taken away, right? How has that changed how you deal with any kind of discipline in the classroom now?
Well, I actually, the last couple of years, I've been trying different reward consequence systems, but I feel like by the 3/4 of the year, they don't work anymore. So it's really hard. Yeah, like the consequences, like the reward, even the reward, they don't care anymore.
So like, do you mean more like the like a positive behavior reinforcement? Like, hey, you do this, you get this?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then like trying to figure out what for like a consequence, like because like we're not at our school, we're not even allowed to, like, they can't lose recess.
Yep.
So that like,
thank you, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom signed that.
Kind of what we do though is if it's like, it's been so bad and we need them to go to like a buddy teacher, like they can go to their recess with that buddy, with the younger kids or whoever teacher you're going. So they still get recess, but they're not with the class. So it's kind of a punishment, but not that much of a punishment because they know, oh, well, I'm going to be back tomorrow.
So what do you think is the bigger threat? Why do you think? Because here's the thing. I had good parents, but I still acted. I look at some of the stuff I did and I was completely an idiot in middle school, because that's just what, you're an idiot in middle school. Yeah. All of us were. But do you think that it is schools being taken away from consequences, or do you think the bigger culprit is just parents are just like giving like it's like a latchkey kid, but with an iPad? They're just giving them an iPad and it's like, here you go, raise yourself.
I do think it's a little bit of both, but I have seen more of like it is a parent issue, because, and sometimes it's not even the parent's fault. It's because parents have to work more too.
They have to work a lot of jobs.
They're not home a lot. And when they are with their kids, they don't want to give consequences.
Because they're tired, you think?
Yeah, but it doesn't help when they're sending them out and then stressing to them like, oh, like some parents just treat us as babysitters. We're just
they're grooming them for
care.
Where it's like, here you go. It's like, maybe you'll learn what plus and minus is.
Yeah,
like their kids, because we've integrated so much technology. I'd be curious as to hear what both of you think. Like, do you feel like the technology is a bad thing? Because I can't help but look at like the Chromebook thing. I'm constantly shutting Chromebooks, taking away cell phones, all this different stuff, to where kids, as a drama teacher, their imagination is sometimes, because I'll be like, all right, all you got to do is, how about you are, she's a princess, you are a dragon slayer, you got to rescue her from the castle. Like they can't conceive of an idea sometimes because they're so used to doing something. They don't have any idle time.
I do think when creativity goes down when you have everything like just to be looking at all the time. Like if you're not bored, you're not going to get creative.
That 100%.
So, yeah.
Everything that is good in the world today exists because of boredom or pain, and someone needing a problem and coming up with a solution and having to use this thing. You know, and I want to circle back real quick to a quick question. So you know how you're talking about the whole like halfway through or 3/4 of the way, it doesn't work. Yeah. Right? The reward thing. Yeah. Why do you think it stops working? Sorry to circle back.
No. The consequences.
I do think like it's,
and by the, not only just the consequence, I'm talking about reinforcing
positive behavior enforcement.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they just get bored of it. Like, you know, like on their phones, they can, oh, I'm bored of these kinds of videos. Let me go to another video. So it's like, oh, I'm like not getting new things. Like, because my reward system this past year was like, I had like a prize box and I would try to get random things occasionally. And at one point I was dating someone who was making like 3D printed little things. And eventually like, I didn't have any more of those. And they were all like, okay, this stuff is boring. And they didn't want anything. Like some of the kids even like when they got their reward, they'd be like, no, I'm okay. So like, and it's, I don't know. It was really hard to think of like consequences besides like writing lines or taking away something, but it's really hard. Like a couple times, if kids got out of hand and I was like, okay, we can't take away recess. They have to have PE, but sometimes the PE teacher, I would say, hey, like they're in trouble. And she's like, I'm just going to have them walk. They're just going to walk around walk the laps. That's their PE time. Because like, instead of playing like kickball or whatever they were doing, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, that I find very weird is that there's a movement, and I would love to know like where it started, that positive behavior reinforcement somehow they believe that it produces better outcomes than actually having consequences. Because a lot of the people that do the positive behavior almost want to get rid of consequences for behavior, right? And especially because now there aren't as many in the in the public schools. But I've noticed most people only change when they're uncomfortable. There's pain involved. Something is taken away. And people misinterpret pain, thinking like,
that we're like literally like, inflicting like, physical pain.
It's like, hey, you're not acting right. I take the iPad.
Yeah.
Okay. Kid changes his behavior, right? For a specific amount of time, they get the iPad back.
Yeah. And I mean, I think even in psychology, I mean, I think it was like Freud who believed like we were motivated by pain and pleasure. And obviously Freud had a bunch of stupid beliefs. I'm not going to say like everything he said was a fact. But at the same time, it's like, I think pain is probably a better motivator than a positive. That's my opinion.
I was trying to think back at like when I was a kid. I don't remember having as many like positive rewards.
That's why, remember the whole thing about participation trophies becoming a thing? That started in that like late 80s, 1980s thing and started going through. And that's where I think people got everyone gets a participation trophy. Where before the trophy meant something.
Yeah, because
you had to get a trophy.
You had to work, and everything in life is about resistance. And so you had to brush up against like some kind of external force and push back on it.
And if you didn't get it, you had to sit with that and then work harder or change things up or whatever.
I noticed like in my class too, like if we play like multiplication bingo, ooh, what's the winner going to get? It's always like, what are we going to get for this? What do we like? And we do like all these math games. What do we get?
What do we get? Which is is such a crappy mindset. What do we get? Like it's literally, I just pictured, did you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
No.
So it's a movie that Mike Judge, the guy who did like Silicon Valley, Office Space, Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Everybody in the future is so dumb. Because everything is just all about convenience. Like they have like a recliner that has a toilet built into it.
So kind of like that movie, WALL-E.
I didn't see WALL-E.
That's kind of, it's kind
very
of similar to that. Like they just sit in a chair and they get everything brought to them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And everyone,
it's a lot like that.
Thinking is outsourced. Everything. It's just.
Yeah. But it's that mentality. Like, what do I get? And it's just, you're just like, ugh, dude, just go away.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, I'm very curious, not to skip around a whole lot, but you were a stand-up. Did you become a stand-up because you're just like, dude, teaching is driving me so crazy. I need an outlet to talk about how wacky this whole educational world is?
So not initially, but I have, used it more throughout the years now that I'm like, okay, this is an outlet. I can make that funny and it feels a little bit better to make it funny. Like my boyfriend's also a comedian and he like says the same thing. Like we talk about what are like crappy situations that happen to us.
Is he also a teacher?
No, he's not.
He's not.
But
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But he's very good at like, he knows what's going on in the school systems too. And he can like when I tell him a joke or I tell him what's going on, he's very good at like, oh, I get, that's where you can make it funny right there. And like, he's pretty good at that.
I mean, it's very relatable, which I didn't realize until like I started talking about like teaching on stage and everything, but everybody went through the school system.
Yeah.
Everybody's life has kind of been marked by the school system in some way, shape or form. So it's a very relatable thing. But do you find that sometimes when something bad happens at work, you're like, oh, this is something that I can turn into a bit? Do you feel like you're doing like journalistic reporting on stage, like, and taking your grievances about being a teacher? And
I definitely have been doing that more of the last couple of years. Like I've only been doing stand-up for like 3 years now.
Okay.
And the first year I did it, I didn't really use too much teaching like up for it.
Were you a little nervous about talking about teaching?
Yeah, I still kind of am.
I get it because you were a teacher first.
Yeah.
And you went through so much. Probably hell to get your credential. It probably was not easy. You got your master's and your credential at the same time.
Yeah, I did an accelerated program too, so it was like a lot of work.
So how long did it take you to get
it was that? 14 months, but it was a lot.
Dude, a master's in 14 months. I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
Mine's
with
like
a teaching credential. And
yeah. It was a lot of work, and I tried to sub part-time when I could, but yeah. It was a lot of work.
And that brings me to the point, like, I feel like as teachers, we were talking about this before, so much is laid on us. Like in one of my credentialing classes, there's a professor who I actually really like this guy a lot, but he goes, guys, there was a story about somebody who, I think they got in trouble because they were on like vacation and they were holding like a Michelob Ultra, and they're of age. They're probably like 35 and they're holding a beer and they're on a cruise, and people were like, that's not the good etiquette to have a teacher. And it's also like, dude, what do you expect from us? You're piling so many kids in the classroom. You've taken away our ability to enforce consequences. You want us to live at that school to where we're like a ghost that just walks into the walls at night. You want us to do all this extracurricular stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how much more do you like? It's almost like you're signing away your soul. And it feels kind of like ick a little bit to put that amount of restriction on teacher to where we don't like really humanize teachers, and we want them to be like kind of just like pacified, like robots that come out and educate and have no life.
Like you plug in at night and you stay at school and you're just there.
Yeah.
I do notice, I worked in the where I live in Goleta and Santa Barbara. I was a sub and a certified tutor there. And all of like the breweries and stuff, you could bring kids in there. So sometimes I would see students of mine and I'd be out with friends, and I did feel weird about it. Like, having a beer but you're like, it's my off time. I am of age. I should be able to drink, but like, it does 100%. Feel weird still, to have your students see you having a beer.
Yeah. So do you have, at this point, do you have any fear of being on the internet, on social media, whatever, talking about teaching?
I don't right now, because I feel like I don't do anything that would, be.
Same here.
Yeah. Like I'm not like pushing anyone under the bus. I'm not even, naming kids. We're just talking about how it is as a teacher. And I feel like people do resonate with that, even if you're not a teacher.
100%, because it's just like, people are just like, sometimes we'll get comments to be like, these damn kids, like it's annoying. And it's like, we unfortunately, we were all kind of like that, at one point. But to your point, feeling uncomfortable about, like having a beer and a kid seeing you, there's also just this weirdness that happens when you see your students outside of the four walls. Like they look at you like you escaped the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like they can't picture you outside of the school. And it's weird because Chris's students found our teachers lounge, like TikTok and everything in their, well, I don't know about TikTok, but Instagram. And, my students found it, but Chris's students were arguing. Chris, I want you to tell the story, but you did a video about how you came back and the kids destroyed the classroom or something when there was a sub, and the kids were like, no, that wasn't me. That was so-and-so. And it's like, yes, it was you, punk. It was you. And they're like arguing in the comments. They were arguing in the comments about who had messed it up. Who messed up the class. And they're like, I'm sorry, mister.
Yeah.
And then
it's always like that with a sub. One year I had all of my prizes still from my prize box while I was gone. Like, and then I had kids saying like, oh, this person did it. And then one person turned in a bunch of it. And I know they're the one that did it. And they just pretended they found a bunch of it to try
and their
to
consequence, they had to go walk in PE, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's literally a punishment that I've seen. Just people, like, you go walk around the track and they're like, okay.
Well, the overall arching thing too, right, is we're talking about like being outside or having a beer or being on social media and someone has a beer or something, I don't know, whatever. It's just an example. Is like, so let me get this straight. You are going to push no consequences, low standards for grading, so kids aren't forced to learn anything. You're going to put major dysfunction in my classroom. You're going to have kids that are anywhere from honors kids all the way to like 3 to 4 grade levels below. Yeah. I'm going to have 10 IEPs, some kid with explosive anger, and you're worried about a picture of me with social media.
Yeah. Dude, it's like you have like a NASCAR sponsor
facility.
Yeah,
100%. Right? They treat us like we're athletes with Gatorade sponsorships or something. Like if you get caught doing something, it's bad for the brand. And it's like,
I was gonna say, this year I definitely had. I was teaching 5th grade this year, and I had kids that were reading at a 1st grade level all the way to 12th grade level.
Oh my god!
Like I had 30. I started with 33 kids. I ended with 32 kids, but then in and out a few different ones.
What do you find more challenging? Having the same kids that come back every hour? It's like coming around the racetrack. They're like, here he is again. Or did you Do you think you would like it more if it was like the reset button every single hour and there's like a new batch that comes in?
I don't know. Like I have subbed where it was like that. And then when I did my student teaching for my master's and the credential, I worked with 2 different teachers. So I did see like 2 different classrooms, and I got to like to do both classrooms. And then when I had my like, it was just mine, I followed one class around because the teacher split up the subjects. So I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like it's beneficial both ways. Like, you know your kids really well if you have them all day, but then like you can get really good at like, oh, well, I'm going to teach English or I'm going to teach math, and you can get really good at that. But I don't know.
That's kind of where I was.
Yeah.
Because I was teaching 5th grade for a few years when I first got my credential, but then that also was calling me of like, hey, just teach a single subject and get really good at that.
Yeah.
So to what you're saying right now, nothing feels more like a family than when you have the same kids all day.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah. And I feel like even like the kids that were like driving me insane, they're like, well, they're my students though. Like, you know,
they feel like your kids.
Yeah. So it's like, like he drives me insane sometimes, but I like him, like still like him, even though sometimes I'm like, okay, you need a break. You got to go to another room. Like,
it's kind of weird how you develop that bond with like some of the worst behaved students in your class. Like, it's weird because sometimes you'll be like, yeah, I kind of care about this kid now. And it's like, even though he drives me nuts. Yeah. I always say he because it's usually a boy. Let's be real. It's usually a boy.
Yeah. This last year, I definitely had some moments with one of my like high behavior kid, but there were some days where he actually tried, and it was really like the light bulb went on and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, but the last day of school, I had to kick him out of my room.
Yeah.
So have you ever had kids, maybe whether they were good students or bad students or whatever it was, come back a few years down the road, come back and talk to you and say thank you
or I'm sorry
like that? Right.
I actually have recently, and it's only been a couple.
Somebody came back and said,
yeah, someone. Okay, last year someone came back, and because their cousins go to my school still, and they came back for like open house night, and she came into my room, and she said, I'm sorry, I was so bad, and she's like, I'm doing really well. I'm getting B's and A's, and it was good. But I wasn't expecting it, but it was nice, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've said that to him. I go, some of your worst kids are going to come back and tell you, thank you. And you were my favorite teacher or whatever it is. And you're going to go, and then everything that you felt that was negative just melts away completely.
That's really nice. But it's also like, it'd be great if they could do it that same year. It would be. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I wish you could have a certain level of growth.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I did stupid stuff when I was in middle school. Like, I remember like.
That was awful in 6th grade.
Yeah. I remember I threw an egg at someone and it exploded all over their outfit.
Oh.
And then I go, why did I do that? Right after it wasn't motivated from like a mean place. It was motivated from a frontal lobe not being developed place to where you're a boy, you're going through puberty, you're dumb. I always feel like it's the boys that are the craziest.
Well,
those are.
I feel like girls can be pretty crazy too. I feel like in 6th grade, I remember me and my friends and then the other girls in the class, we were like at war with each other about things. Like we wanted to be the popular ones. And I went to a really small school. There wasn't that many of us.
If you get a splinter, it's in the newspaper. Like it's everything.
Yeah. It was small Catholic school in Vermont.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just remember,
was it
like,
all girls?
It wasn't, but it was very uneven. We didn't have very many boys in our class. We had a lot of girls. And I remember that year specifically because we had to go to this like leadership camp because there were so many issues with the girls. So they took us to this day camp where we had to do all these like collaborative skills together to learn how to work together in different ways and not just like at school.
Okay. So one of the things, and because I'm going to relate to you, especially with the younger kids and probably that too, what I found was this in the elementary, it holds true in middle school as well or whatever. Boys fight and then they go, they're back doing their thing. I always said that there would be like one girl, maybe you can attest to this, like with girls, it's more about fighting with drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or
100%.
creating drama. Like I would have one girl halfway through the year come in, Mr. Dunham, none of my friends will talk to me and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell happened? And then you go on like Sherlock Holmes it, and then you find out like all this stuff that's been going on for like a year or two. What's like have you seen anything like that when you go, what is going on?
I feel like the girls are more mean, but they're less disruptive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
They
what I
don't
mean.
want
But they're
to,
mean with the
they
drama.
don't want to
mean.
get in trouble in class. Like I had,
They don't wanna be
I had
pointed
like the
out.
mean girls this year in my class for sure. And then one of them would, she kind of like changed her ways for sure, like in front of adults at least. They didn't want to get in trouble during the class, but then they would cause like problems at recess. Or the issue going around this year was girls were we're not allowed to have phones. Like they can keep them in their backpack or they can turn them into me and I keep them like in my filing cabinet. And the people were taking phones into the bathroom and making videos and recording people and taking pictures of their friends. And then their friends' parents would get mad at them having pictures of them when you're not supposed to. And it was a whole thing. But I do like, because we have recess duty a couple days a week. So I'll be out there with like them. And I do notice like, oh, why aren't they hanging out anymore? Or, oh, why are they hanging out? And you kind of get the story. They don't tell me very much like as their teacher, but they'll tell like the teachers they've had previously things. So I kind of get the gossip from them and know, oh, that's what happened. Like blah, blah, blah likes this person and he didn't like her back. Like things like that. And I'm I was teaching 5th grade this year. I taught 6th grade for a while. I'm like, you guys are dating?
I know.
Like one of the teachers said it the best. She asked her student, she's like, wait, so you guys are dating. Do you guys go out after school? Do you guys talk on the phone? Do you hang out? And they're like, no, we're just at school. Like, you're not dating then.
Yeah. I think it's so funny to hear a kid say that they're dating someone. Even in middle school, I'm like, you're a child. Like, but the girls want to be grown so bad. The boys are still kind of basking in being a jackass. But like the girls will be coming and they'll be putting their makeup on. I'm dating somebody new.
They have like the long nails.
The long nails. I'm like,
they can't even type or hold the
Yeah.
pencil
I'm like,
correctly.
why did your mom take you to get those?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that is like a parenting thing to where I look at like when a girl has like long Corella DeVille nails that she clearly got from a salon or something. I'm like, why did your mom take you?
A lot of the time,
that's weird to me.
No, a lot of the time,
It's
especially
weird
the
to
middle
me.
school girls, they get good at doing them. And there's usually like 1 or 2 girls in a
That will
bigger
do it.
campus.
Oh, they got like a
that get
salon at
paid.
recess.
Yeah.
Oh.
And will actually do them.
It's so funny when they got those side hustles. There was a kid
Yeah.
who was selling Chick-fil-A sauces at lunch, and he was also squirting the sauce into his mouth. And I was like, dude, you can't get high on your own supply. But he was selling Chick-fil-A things.
And that always made me laugh too when you're talking about like kids dating at school and like their version of like, yeah, we've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, how long's that? 6 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Think about getting married.
There was one, I do like want to know if some of them like stick it out for years, because I know some people have. Like one of my coworkers, like she met her husband in 8th grade and they've been together
Ever since?
Yeah.
Does she hate him now though?
No, well, not that I know of. But there was one couple last year in my class, and I kind of wanted to like, the girl used to be kind of like a good girl, and then she started dating him and her grades started going down and he was a troublemaker. And I kind of like thought in my head as soon as I knew they were dating, I'm like, you want to date someone that doesn't even turn in their homework?
100%.
Just drop.
That's riding a Harley when you're in 5th grade.
Yeah.
It's like a guy who doesn't do his homework is like he rides a Harley.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the bad boy. That's so funny. Because it's like, you've said this before. It really is like the mark of like, why do you want to date a loser? Because it's like, that's not going to be like, he's so hot, he won't even turn in an application.
Yeah.
That's like what that turns
okay.
into. You know what I mean? He's such an underachiever. It's just like.
What I worry about with going back to like the consequence thing along with this is if they don't understand there's consequences for things, how are they going to be an adult without knowing there's consequences?
It's a gigantic disservice. It's actually very immoral. And it's evil to not give consequences to kids, because then they're going to go up and it's like we've said before, it goes parent, teacher,
boss, cop,
judge.
Yeah.
And then crazy convict with a teardrop tattoo.
Yeah.
That's now your crappy roommate, and that's worse than a college roommate. This guy, you know,
it's and
making whiskey in a toilet.
Making whiskey. In a toilet.
that's the future if you don't start getting your grades up.
And it does suck. It's like, because once again, through social promotion that came through No Child Left Behind, from kindergarten through 8th grade. Grades are fake. They don't matter because you're just moving on to the next grade.
And they know that.
Yeah. And the younger,
except in high school.
Do you think that high school's different? Yeah. Now, and that's why they freak out their freshman year too.
Yeah.
So do kids, I can't remember. I don't know if kids had figured it out that grades really don't matter. Did the kids in 5th and 6th grade, have they kind of figured it out? Or do you think they know, but they don't verbalize it?
I think they know, but they don't verbalize it. But I'm pretty sure they know because they know, oh, we're going to go to promotion or moving on ceremony, what they call it now, in 6th grade, and they could be failing everything. And like, we can't even as teachers in my district, like, suggest that they should be retained. It has to come from the parents. And even if it comes from the parents, like, the district probably won't let it happen.
Yeah. That's so annoying. Like, do you, with all the stuff that's going on right now, do you still, I'm trying to think that, because I don't want to put you on the spot, do you still love being a teacher? Or do you sometimes be like, get me out of here, man?
There are definitely moments I'm like, get me out of here. That is why I did go to 5th grade. Last year, when
did you move to 5th grade again?
I only have taught 5th grade this year and my first year, but that was a while ago. And I just, like, last year, I think it was like December, January, I was like, I need to get out of this.
Get out of teaching.
Yeah. And at the time, it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure out if I want to get out of teaching and what I could do instead. And then it was like all these domino things in my personal life all happened, boom, boom, boom. And then I had to put something aside. And I said, okay, well, I guess I can teach another year, but I need to teach a different grade.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? You made it past, because Chris talks about this all the time. 50% of teachers, I think, quit within their first 5 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you made it past that. So, it's like,
where's my participation trophy?
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
I'm so grateful to be here.
Another teacher.
Yeah.
mug.
You're just,
number one
teacher.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we should at least get a boat after the 5th year or something. Like, they should give us like a yacht or something. Like, it really is a very difficult job. But do you think that all in all, can you see yourself going the distance, teaching the entire time? Or does it fluctuate? Or are you still like, I'm doing it right now, but I've got like, it's like leaving a bad relationship, like I got one foot out the door and
it kind of is almost like I'm fluctuating, but I was leaning for a while. Like, I was out the door because I started doing comedy. And now I have a production company producing shows and comedy with 2 other women. Like, I'm good at that.
Not
like,
teachers. They're not teachers. Gotcha.
No, but which is actually nice because then we all have our own little skills we bring into the business. But I've really gotten really good at producing shows. And so my boyfriend suggested too, like, maybe eventually, like, you can just do that full time, and he's getting into he's going to start producing shows too. So like, we're kind of, I don't know, maybe we'll tag team eventually, but I still do like teaching though. There's some aspects about it that I do enjoy. Like, there's a lot of things that make you like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but then you get the little things like you do get the kids that are like, you were a really good teacher. And you're kind of like, okay, somebody thought that, somebody saw that.
Somebody saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, how you say, like, you were like, oh, I forgot what words you just said, but it made me think, if there was one thing like that you could change right now in public education, like, that would make it better for you, it would make it better for the students and all that, what would it be?
Smaller class sizes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, instantly.
Fist
like,
bump on that one.
Even if so, like, I don't know what the cap is for you guys. I think our cap in 4 through 6 is, I think it's like 36. I think it's something crazy like that.
Mine's like 40.
How is that? That is.
I've never had that many. It's either.
Oh my God.
It's either 34 or 36, but it's pretty high.
Wow.
If it can cut to like 20 or even 25, like how much it could help. Like, because you cannot get to all of those kids. You cannot. When they're learning, reading at first grade level to a 12th grade level, you can't.
20 kids, I think, is now ours. Yeah. When you're in a core class, right? Math, ELA in LAUSD, it's like 25 or 26, or maybe it's 28 max. But they're keeping it at an acceptable level. Yeah. But you're right. I always say 20. Yeah. And I actually find that if you get it down to 20, a lot of the behavior problems are going to start going away.
I've noticed, like, even on days where I have my high behavior kids, if 5 or 6 kids are out, it's so much better overall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had almost like 40 an hour this year, but I'm an electives teacher.
Okay.
And so the thing that I realized about being an electives teacher is it's like being a storefront for the mob. It's like, they don't look at it as a real class.
Yeah. So they're not
a real thing. It's like, let's just dump. They're just dumping bodies in there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, try to teach them. But I noticed that 32 was the max for drama. 32 is controllable. Anything beyond that is where it just becomes sheer chaos.
Yeah.
And it just sucks. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, smaller class sizes would be so much better. And it's like, I don't really know what the solution for that is. I don't know if it's because there's a teacher shortage. Nobody
also
wants
they don't want to pay more.
That's the infuriating part about teaching, I think, is, you know, we get it on here because we get like the frustrated parents. It's so funny. It's like, lady, we don't even teach at your school. Go yell at the people at your school. But they'll be like, well, yeah, because teachers are blah, blah, blah. And it's like they have this anger and animosity. But I think that I just totally lost my thought. I don't even know what I was saying.
Well, speaking of budgets, right? You know, there's a weird thing where in the United States, it's almost like people say either teachers don't make enough or they make too much money.
Yeah.
You know? And I go, when I hear about the higher class sizes and all that, it makes me wonder is how much, because I know it's not the teachers, right? When it comes to cost.
Yeah.
I really don't think that that's it. How much is everything else cost for a school district? And there are other ways to like save money so that we can have smaller class sizes. I think that's why the union, I don't know how strong your union is, but they're always pushing to reduce class sizes, which is going to force LAUSD to get better at a budget.
Yeah. I do think having smaller classes would just solve a lot of problems right away.
100%.
Because like they keep saying like, oh, we want our test scores to go up. We want this. You want this. It's like, okay, but they're not going to go up if I can't meet everyone's needs. Like, and I can't do that because there's 32 kids that are all different and they all learn differently. And
now that's another point, right?
Just one person.
If you could get it down to 20, do you think that it would also be, because remember they've gone to this, you know, mixed classes, right? Of high and low kids. I didn't grow up like that. There were 2 or 3 5th grade classes, right? And it was kind of like the low kids, the high, and then like the middle level.
Yeah.
Would you think that would also be good to go to that to meet kids better? Or do you like the idea of having a wide variety of kids?
I do think leveling, I don't know, like generally, because I was leveled too, like in high school, not in elementary school because it was too small anyways. Yeah. We had our needs met because there was like 8 of us in the class. Like, but I do think that could help, but it's kind of nice to see the different levels because you see like you push the kids who are struggling and then also the kids that are like need to be challenged. They start like realizing I could teach them this. I could help with this, or, you know, so I don't know how, like, I haven't seen it in play in a while.
Yeah. So I think that was something they got rid of a long time ago. And I think that was called tracking kids or something like that. I can't
remember. Like gate classes, right?
Well, like, no, because literally it used to be like
gate is gifted, right?
Gate's gifted, but it was like, you knew who the high kids were, right? The high achieving, you had the middle level and then the lower kids. But the reason why they did that, they weren't trying to be mean. They said, hey, logically, you would think it's easier to teach kids that are all on grade level.
Yeah.
And if kids are 2 grade levels below, they probably have the same issues with certain skills. So you could focus on those more to help them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know what's interesting too, speaking of this class size thing, when I was subbing, I was doing mostly special ed. That was mostly what I did.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak prematurely because I've never taught special ed, but as a sub doing that mostly day in, day out, it did seem like for me, that was like the more desirable option would be to teach special ed because it's smaller class sizes. You usually have help.
Yeah.
You know,
you have all of those like aides in there and
yeah. And so it just, in my experience, I mean, I was doing elementary, so I don't know what it's like in middle school, but the kids were just cooler. like in special ed, like I was just like, I like these kids a lot.
Yeah.
Like none of them ever really gave me any problems. I mean, some of them, you know, if it was moderate to severe, some of them obviously like their cognition wasn't great, but it was just, smaller class sizes and it seemed less stressful.
Now, have you found,
you know,
was there a class that you've had that you were thinking of when you went, smaller class sizes, that you really felt because it was smaller, you did just a bang up job the whole year, comparatively speaking, because it was so much smaller?
I did have a class a few years ago that by the end of the year, it was 23, but we started with like 27. And it did feel like that. I felt a little bit better. I did have a student that had lots and lots of behavior issues with, but even having the smaller class with him in it, it was a lot better. So I do think like 6th grade, I'm kind of jealous. The sixth grade teachers next year have smaller classes, and I'm going to be starting at like 32 again in 5th grade. And I feel like with 6th grade, it should be a little bit smaller, but also I do think all the classes should be a little bit smaller.
Did you feel though, when you went from 6th to 5th, that you had a major decompression?
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. I started out even the first day, I was like, kids were like nicer. And they raised their hand, can I get out of my seat? Like 6th graders don't ask. I mean, by the end of the year, they were kind of not asking anymore, you know, but like they were becoming 6th graders. Yeah. The last month was like, okay, can we leave now? Is it time? Because after testing, I don't know where you guys experience this, they are just done.
They're done. 100%.
They're out. And even with testing, they're kind of just like, oh, it's gonna whatever for this. But I definitely did. That's why I was like, I started out the year and I'm like, wow. And even, I mean, I just was having a hard time last year. People noticed like right away, like, wow, you just look happier.
So do you feel like that bought you some time? Because it's like reaching the checkpoint in Mario Kart. Do you feel like now you have more like oomph to be able to keep going?
I did. Because if I probably hadn't switched, it would be, I don't know, I might have done something silly, like left in the middle of the year or something, you know, because I was that stressed.
Yeah.
Wow. I was that stressed last year. And
did you just have like, did you ever see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, that Ben Stiller movie? He just always has these grandiose daydreams with his eyes open. That's like, you okay?
Yeah.
Did you ever just have like these grandiose daydreams like, I could maybe leave at lunch today?
Yeah.
And just drive off the lot.
I had a really hard group last year, and it was just kind of like a couple key players would egg everyone on. Like if this one key player, he wasn't there, the other ones wouldn't be as crazy. But then when he was there was like 5 or 6 of them, and they would all like play off each other, and like coming up with systems too for these kinds of kids. Like the principal or the dean would say like, okay, let's try like, how about they take a break? They have a break card or whatever, but then they don't use it. Yeah. But then they don't use it, or they use it all the time.
100%. There's always the kid that always has to go to the bathroom. Yeah. It's like, you know, but I know what you're talking about. The person who's leading the prison yard rebellion. Every time they're here, Corey, Kyle, and Jacob are horrible. But when he's gone, Corey, Kyle, and Jacob are fine.
So I do want you guys to know
so it's like
that there was a time before the dark times that when I was a sub, and because I'm calling this the dark ages of teaching. When
that's the name of this episode, the dark ages of teaching.
And because when I first started as a sub, the dean of students would even come up and be like, and say to me at a school, hey, if you need to sacrifice somebody, it's cool. And what that meant was you can kick out the ringleader, have them come in, and they would tell you sometimes like who the kids that would cause the problems, because they knew if they removed the one kid, you're good. Yeah. Everybody's good. Yeah. But now that one kid that causes all the problems, that's the part that I don't think the public understands, is the one kid now that gets to cause all the problems is staying in there.
Yeah.
In that middle, that group of kids, they're saying, oh my God,
he's not getting in trouble.
Trevor's getting away with this. I can get away with it.
And
dude, they need to start a TED branch, troubled education. It's not even like special ed. It's just
troubled
like,
education.
TED, like a wing with nothing but those kids and just pad the walls and let them hit each other.
It's like the
for like 8
Breakfast Club, but
hours.
during the day, like
yeah, Judge, whatever his name is, Judge Reinhold.
What's
yeah,
go on.
I was just gonna say, I see that every year. There's always a ringleader, a couple people, but then the kids love them. They're the popular kids. They're the kids they like want to hang out with, and you're like, why?
Because you know what it is? It's so easy, I think, because you know how they say like someone to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 2 ways to stand out. One way is the way that adults want you to do. The other way is to revolt against that.
Yeah.
Right? It's so much easier to just revolt against it when there's no consequences.
Yeah.
100%.
And then everybody grows up, man, that guy's cool. That guy can't read.
Yeah.
That guy,
100%.
that guy can't hold a job. That guy grows up to do nothing and probably become a dysfunctional person.
Well, and then I feel like, I don't know, with like you guys too, like I feel like I did not get as much done with my students this year because of behavior. I always had to stop. And I'm like,
you're putting out fires.
Yeah.
But did it seem like you're putting out less in 5th grade than 6th
It did
grade?
seem, yes, it was less.
Right. But it's still stressful. There's no way around this stuff, you know?
And then you get like, I don't know, like we get interrupted all the time at school too with phone calls. Or
my
like,
grandma's calling me. Well, what the hell is your grandma
like
calling you for?
The office calls. Can you let blah, blah, blah know this? Can you let blah, blah, blah know this? Or like, I had one student that their parents picked him up 15 minutes early every single day. Why? To beat the traffic? Like,
and the school just let them go?
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me. Like the parents that don't value education at all. You'll be like, hey, where were you yesterday, Marty? It's like, oh, I was Disneyland with my grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Glad that she took you to go see Mickey Mouse when you could have been learning. You know, it's just wild to me.
I do think like that is an issue too with why students are behaving in certain ways at school, because there's a lot of parents, not all parents, but a lot of parents will say, yeah, oh, I hated school. It was so hard. Math was stupid. And then the kids will come in, yeah, I can't do math. It's hard, because they're hearing their parents say they couldn't do it or it was hard, instead of just encouraging them to like, oh yeah, like go to school. And I get it. A lot of parents, they see the problems with the education. We see the problems with the education
100%.
system. We do. But it's like, if you're telling your kid, like, I hated school, it was the worst thing, they're going to already feel that.
Yeah. What's the quote that I heard today? It's like your kids won't always do what you say, but they will watch what you do.
Yeah.
And that will always stick with them. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't think that people realize the magnitude. This is a whole other conversation, but the magnitude of the responsibility that you now have if you have a kid. Like you can't just be like, yeah, and like say whatever you want.
No, very simply
you know?
put, you are their God. They look up to you.
They look
for
at you
everything.
like
they
a
look
god.
for you for protection.
Yeah.
You are the guiding light, and they will become a reflection of you.
100%.
And I think a lot of the parents, right, what they don't understand is that all of the real hard work should be done in the first, from birth until about 7 or 8 years old, maybe 10. And then after that,
self-sustaining.
You don't have to, it becomes better. But if you're going, I'm just tired and I just want to sit here and let the kid run around in a circle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's literally what he's going to do, because like he doesn't know how to tame himself. That people are literally going to have to put him in timeout with metal bars because you didn't do your job the first 5 years. I agree.
Yeah.
The class size too, thinking about that. Like, so my boyfriend has a 5-year-old and he is doing summer school right now. And
kindergarten.
Like he's going to be going into kindergarten this year. And so he's doing summer school and it's only a couple hours a day, but like his dad is like, he loves it. I love it because he's there with only a few kids. He's getting all this attention, one-on-one attention. And like, because he has spent so much time like encouraging the schooling too, like he's already reading, like not everything, but he's already like he's taking it on his like to learn himself. Like the other day, he is using the iPad, but it's funny because he'll use it a lot for educational things. Like he was just showing me all the solar system and then telling me all about the planets and like, you know, and I feel like because he had a parent who encouraged all of that and the reading and all of that. And I feel like you do have to do that in the beginning. in order to get them that like
you want
jump
your
start.
kid to read?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Read at home just
Yep.
for 15 to 20 minutes. Pick up a book. Oh, reading's hard. The kid doesn't know what you're reading. Read a book.
Read a magazine upside down. Dude.
Yeah.
Like
Just talk like,
and then talk to your kid. Like
yeah.
most people don't even develop the conversational skills with their kids. Like my brother-in-law, because if you ask a kid, hey, how was your day? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what he developed this thing. He went, it's the 3 scoops of the day. So you have to give him, so you go, hey, how was your day? What did you do? And he has to give him 3 things and elaborate on all of them.
I like that.
Yeah. And all you're doing is teaching a kid how to be an articulate human being to communicate with others.
Right. And just even how to, it really is
Sorry
crazy.
if it's hard to listen to your kid talk.
Because kids are computers and you're just entering programs into them. Like
on some level, yeah.
I mean, it's like no kid comes out with like a blank slate, you know, because kids are who they are, you know, like no matter like what. That's why kids have predispositions to certain behaviors. But I don't know. I just think it's wild that, I don't know. Maybe parents have always been bad parents. Maybe this is just the way it is. And now with social media and we're talking about it, like who knows?
What do you guys feel about phones? Like,
hate it.
I mean, I did not have like a real cell phone until I went away to college. Like I had the little track phone that I could tell my parents if I was going somewhere and call. Yep. The Nokia with, you could play the little snake game, you know, going around.
Yeah.
And I just think people are getting cell phones too young. Like
100%.
I think
Because
like
it's
high school or middle school, like not before that, but I've seen like 3rd graders with cell phones.
I would say it's not even just the phone. It's the fact that they're getting such nice phones that allow them to do so much that instead of just being a kid, you're going to have enough time to sit on your butt and scroll. What is it? Doom scroll or whatever as you get older.
Dude, and even phones are bad for us.
Yeah.
So you're giving it to a kid whose brain isn't even developed yet.
Yeah.
Like they can't handle that. We can't handle it.
Well, I noticed too,
You know?
students at recess
100%.
time, they don't really play anymore. Like the older ones, like 5th and 6th, they'll just talk and hang out and like, it's like play, go play kickball, go jump rope, go down the swing. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids aren't playing
It's-
basketball unless it's on their phone.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
there was a book that came out some years ago. I read it a long time ago. I can't remember the author. I think it's like Stuart Brown or something like that. But the book is just called Play. That's the name of the book. It's called Play. And he was like a scientist or something. He did like basically brain scans on people that had like a play deficit. And he found out that like how important play was like developmentally. You know what I mean?
That's why I do think, have you noticed over the years, like they're pushing more and more down? So like younger kids have to know this now versus like, oh, like years ago, maybe they didn't have to know how to read yet. But now it's like, oh, they now need to know how to read. They need to be able to write 3 sentences or whatever it is. I do think more playtime, more social time, like maybe have an extra year where they're just hanging out, having social time and learning things. Because like, I do think other countries have even developed, like done studies on the more recess there is, like the kids are doing better in other things. It's like
100%.
Why are we doing that?
School's long.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there for a long time.
Well, the breaks,
like-
right? So I wish that you could say, is there more breaks? Because we're going away from, we were at block scheduling for an hour and a half, our class periods.
Oh, dude, that was horrible. Having like certain
How do
classes
you
for an hour and a
expect
half.
6th, 7th, and 8th graders that are bouncing off walls
I hated
to
that.
sit and learn? No, now
I
next
hated
year
it.
it's 55 minutes.
Yeah.
So we know it's 5 minutes of that is getting ready and picking up to
Yeah.
go. We're going to just hammer it home, go. Get your little break and everything like that. Because we need that as human beings.
Yeah.
Dude, as soon as they told me that certain periods were going to be, I was like, I got to be with some of these kids for an hour and a half. Like I was so depressed. Like, I was like, I don't want to spend an hour. 55 minutes is a long time, or 53 or whatever the thing is. And I'm like, but an hour and a half with some of these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I was like, it ruined my life for 2 weeks.
Now that you're teaching 5th grade, so most people, I mean, well, let me ask this. When you were teaching 6th grade, were you teaching one subject and had multiple kids throughout the day? Or
No, I taught every subject.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like a regular elementary style.
Uh-huh.
next year I did hear the 6th grade, they're going to do leveling and try to, and do like, someone's going to do English. Someone's going to do some, they're going to do that next year.
So they're going to do it middle school style.
Yeah. And I do know, like, I taught 6th grade for so long too, that like we tried to, like, it was almost like we did the transition. Like we started doing, this is how it's going to be in middle school, but like we couldn't, depending on the principal, we didn't do the like switching, but we did things like, okay, well, this assignment, this is how they're going to do it. If you don't turn it in, this is what you get. Or like, and we were slowly getting them there, because I still had kids that were like, oh, you were right, I wasn't listening, like, about all the things. Like when I got to 7th grade, it was a shock. Like,
oh, if you think those kids are in for a shock, going back to high school, when kids get to high school and they find in California that they can actually fail a class.
Oh,
and they have, my buddy teaches high school. He goes, it's
in California.
Yeah, in California. It's tears everywhere.
Yeah.
But they tell them day one.
Yeah.
They bring them in freshman orientation. You have to pass the class. You can't get an F. Kids will still get an F, and then, just crying and everything, because there's a repercussion for their action.
But it's like, it feels unjust. And in a sense, I kind of agree with the kid on some level. I agree with the kid, because it is unjust, because you did not prepare them for this, and to learn that lesson. Oh, consequences, there are consequences to my actions. Learning that at 14 is not okay.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand the taking away, there's no consequences, because I do think it's important. It's like, it doesn't have to be a harsh consequence, but it has to make sense for what they did. And
every kid might be a little bit different, right? So I had one kid I found out last year through his family. Okay, check this out. I could literally, if I wanted to, hold him in doing iReady, right? Because it's educational, or catching up on stuff with me.
Yeah.
For every lunch throughout the whole year, I could do that, and his behavior would never change. Then we found out one thing: the kid loves soccer, and he was part of a soccer team, and so his family, if they got bad reports, would make him sit and not play. Oh my God!
And it worked probably.
Yeah. Because every kid has a button.
It's like a mob boss, like in movies when someone's tied to a chair and it's like, I'm not telling you nothing, and they spit, and then it's like, finally you find the pain point, and they're like, all right, I'll tell you everything. That's what it's like.
You just start petting their kitten. I'll tell you everything.
100%.
Yeah, you do have to find what works, but then when you're trying to do all of the duties as a teacher that you have to do, and then try to figure out when do I have time to contact the parents or make the consequence happen sometimes.
And then when you contact the parent, you also have to log that into a system.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like an FBI report, and it goes with them from school to school.
That's how it is with LAUSD. You got to log that. So then the amount of stuff that they make you do, it makes teachers kind of give up and like, do I really
do whatever you want?
Yeah, do I? Yeah.
Dude, there
you
were
become
times.
The student.
You become the parent that you just complained about.
You become the parent that you just complained about, and you're like, I'll just let him play on his iPad. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Near the end of the year, there were kids that were like on their computer, and I'm giving like a drama lesson, and they just do not give a crap.
Yeah, and
and then I'm like, you know what, like, keep playing on your computer. I'm just gonna act like I think you're doing
as
work.
Long as they're not interrupting. Sometimes you're like,
you're just like whatever. So it's. But also, these parents at home don't have 40 of them. Well, at least we hope they don't. There's some pretty dysfunctional people out there. They might have 40 kids.
So, before I forget, because did you ever have kids that would try to roast you and make fun of you to your face? I've had that in middle school.
I haven't necessarily.
Probably because of the age.
Like I've
6th grade is not.
I found a note once that was about me.
Oh, really?
It was kind of funny though, and I did turn it into a joke. So it was a note that said, the teacher has a boyfriend and she lives here, so they must do it in the library. But
you're like, correct.
I have not had any like necessarily, but I have had
it's kind of adorable.
I have had other teachers tell me things, but I usually just have the kids that go like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, yeah.
Are you a strict teacher?
I am, and I do think
that scares kids.
I get, and then I feel like oh, they must not, I'm not like, they don't think I'm a good teacher. I'm just mean. But it's like, no, I'm not mean. I'm strict. But then like next year, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of excited. I'm sure some of the 6th graders will come back or like, hey, like, you know, because I'm not used to being the teacher that's liked. I feel like a lot of teachers aren't liked until they're not their teacher anymore. You know, like the
scarcity.
Kids. Yeah.
As soon as you're gone, they like you.
Yeah. And like I see all the kids liking their other teachers that they've had in the past. And then like it's like, oh, my kids don't like me. But it's like, no, I'm not a mean, like I'm not mean. I'm strict. I don't let certain things happen. We do have fun. But there are things like they know for sure, like anything that's like bullying or making fun of people, I shut that down so fast. And they get very like, oh, she means business. Like I'll get my like really strict voice.
Yeah, and you probably learned just like I did is I'm not strict because I want to be.
Yeah.
It's because if I'm not or let certain things go, chaos.
Yeah.
Dude, you told me right when you said your number one job as a teacher is to keep your mental health. And if you're not strict, the mental health goes.
Yeah.
Because if you just let kids kind of do whatever, they don't understand boundaries.
No.
They haven't been taught that.
And but like if they don't have boundaries, they would not like that either. But they don't know that.
That's what's weird, isn't it?
They don't.
But we all, you know what that reminds me of? None of us like having a schedule as an adult. But life without a schedule,
chaos.
Yeah, it just works better. Like, hey, I kind of go to bed around the same time, wake up around the same time. Why? So I can feel decent throughout the day.
Speaking of schedule, we got to wrap up here in a second.
Ooh,
but we have your questions, but I just want to know what's on the agenda for next year. This year you made it through.
Yeah.
You're like, do you still have kind of like, are you still sort of doing this 1 foot out? Or are you kind of like, nah, I'm here for right now. You feel a little more at peace about it.
I'm a little bit more at peace about it, but I do think I'm slowly moving out the door. I don't know if it's going to be like 1 more year or a couple more years, but I mean, it's becoming a little too much. And it's hard to keep that mental health up when it's like, it's just too draining. And I have noticed like, I love producing shows. I love doing that. Like that doesn't seem like work to me.
And you're naturally good at it.
Yeah. Like, I think it does help being a teacher, organized.
Yes, organization, it probably does in the fact that you're able, because there's a lot of people who are great comics, but they can't produce a show, which is, I've said before that I think if you can teach and you can teach effectively, a lot of teachers would be great CEOs and business people. So, you know, I feel you on that.
All right. Here's the 2 questions that we've come up with to ask us. Number 1. What's something that you've learned about public education?
That a lot of public education just seems like, what can we do to get more money? What can we do to get more money?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that just a little bit?
So it doesn't seem like, it seems like that is the top priority. It's not the education part. And I don't agree with that. Like if we're educating kids, that should be the top. That should be their priority. Not let's get them to school to get money because the budget when they're at school, they're attending, or let's do this to get more money. It should be trying to educate. That's what it should be the top thing.
And it's turned in more to a business.
Yeah.
It is a business. Yeah. Yep. Everything is, but yeah, definitely.
100%. Okay. Last question. Since you became a teacher, what's something that you've learned about yourself?
I used to be really shy.
Like
a really shy person. Like in high school, I was super shy. I was well liked, but I was shy. I didn't want to talk in public. And then when I became a teacher and I'm just like, I have to be up in front of people and have to like the chaos of who's coming into the room, the principal or whatever, it doesn't bother me. Anyone can come in. I can just continue. And that's helped me with like comedy. It's helped me with like just being on the stage in general.
Do you think that when you came into comedy, were you not real intimidated or nervous by it because of teaching? Or did you still have kind of
I still had a little bit of nerves, but it came really naturally. And like when I did start doing comedy, I'd already been like, I love karaoke. So, and I'm not like, I got a drink to do karaoke. I could just get up and do karaoke, and if no one likes it, whatever. Like, and that's how I kind of got in the mentality of comedy. It's like, yeah, I want to make the audience laugh, but I'm not going to be like, oh, they didn't laugh at that. Oh, I must suck. I'm going to just like, okay, why didn't they laugh at that?
Sure.
I'm going to try harder next
time. It's like
time.
a lesson plan, not
working.
Yeah. So I guess one last question would be, where can people find you? Like, plug in your stuff.
So, so I'm under L Kruszyna _comedy. You can also find me through Wasted Potential. That's the production company that I produce with 2 other friends.
Good name.
Yeah.
Good name. That's actually a really, really, really good. It sounds like a punk group. Like a punk rock group.
It does.
No, it really does. I like it a lot.
And you know
actually.
what? Also, for anyone that's listening, I would love them to know I did the show last weekend and I had an absolute blast. So if you're ever in the Santa Barbara area, anyone that's listening on a Saturday night, make sure to follow Wasted Potential Comedy.
Yeah.
Wasted Potential Comedy on Instagram. So when they have a show, go to that show. It is so much fun. There's such a great warmth, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we have 2 shows a month too that we produce. So one at the Java Station where you were, and then we do one at La Leaf Winery in the Funk Zone in Santa Barbara.
Oh,
cool.
That's cool.
Santa Barbara is beautiful too, so it's an excuse for you guys to even take a trek out there.
Yep.
So, well, thank you for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
fun.
You're awesome.
All right.